Okay, Trevor, thank you. And as Catholics mourn Pope Francis and prepare for his funeral, the ceremony will be quite different from any other.
And that's because in November, Francis scaled back the rituals surrounding papal funerals. Now, while a majority of popes are buried at St. Peter's Basilica, that will not be the case with him. So here to give us some insight into what we can expect over the next few days and weeks is Fordham Theology Professor Michael Lee. So good morning, Professor. Thanks again for joining us.
Good morning to you, Dan and Hazel. Honored to be here, even under these sad circumstances.
Yes. So according to the Vatican, Pope Francis's funeral will take place this Saturday morning. So who exactly is in charge until a new pope is elected?
Sure. So after the death of a pope, all of the cardinals and archbishops in charge of the various Vatican offices, they lose their positions. But all of those offices have secretaries that continue the work of the Vatican. It's the Camerlengo, the Cardinal Chamberlain, who is the most important official in this time. And we know that's Cardinal Kevin Farrell. He's Irish-born, but he was longtime Bishop of Dallas and Auxiliary Bishop of Washington, D.C., so he knows the U.S. Really well. So he's the interim manager at the Vatican. But of course, each diocese has its own bishops. And now, over the coming days, as the cardinals arrive in Rome, the College of Cardinals will govern the Church's business as well.
I want to talk about the funeral. We just heard from our Trevor Shirley, President Trump attending that, as well as other world leaders. And Pope Francis, he'd like to live a simple life, right? He did away with a lot of pomp and circumstance, not only when he was alive, but even in his death now with papal funerals. Can you walk us through what will be done differently for Pope Francis than what we may have known in the past?
Yeah, and the key to these changes, as he himself said when the changes, the modifications were made to the right, he said he wanted the funeral of a pope to be about simplicity, about the pope as a pastor and a believer, not simply a great leader. So what will it look like? There are technical things. Instead of the 3 coffins that have been traditionally used, now a simple wooden coffin with a lining can be used. The simplest of the papal titles will be used, probably Bishop of Rome, so you won't hear titles like Supreme Pontiff of the Universal Church. Instead of being placed on a bier, a kind of platform in the Vatican, he'll simply be in the coffin with a candle right beside him. But I think, as you mentioned earlier, the most important change will be that he will not be buried at St. Peter's.
Yeah.
He's asked to be buried at the Church of Santa Maria Maggiore, which is interesting. He stated his preference in that he had a great devotion to Mary, and this is one of the great churches of Rome dedicated to Mary. But I'll also note, as the first Jesuit pope, it is the place where St. Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, said his first Mass centuries ago.
That is
so it's an interesting choice on his part.
Yeah. As we move forward, everybody would love to be a fly on the wall as the conclave begins. And the movie Conclave gave us a rare look, maybe with a few artistic liberties, into how the College of Cardinals select a new pope. So how much, I don't know if you saw the film, but how much of that film is actually true? Because do they really campaign to become the next pope?
Well, although it's dramatized, much of the technical details in the film were actually correct. The residence has been sealed by Cardinal Farrell, and the papal ring will be broken. My guess is most of his belongings will go to the Vatican archives. As for the campaigning, that's really, it's expressly forbidden before the conclave. And it's often a bad sign. Those who wish to be pope are not often elected pope.
That's why when you look at the list of frontrunners, it's always somebody that's really not on the list. By the way, timely, the movie Conclave being released for streaming in just a day. But I want to talk about the Conclave, right? Because I spoke to Cardinal Dolan about this once, and he was like, well, it is, for the first time in my life, I have to be silent, because he's a very boisterous, loud personality. And it's like this silent vote that goes in, right? So can you walk us through how they get to the 2/3 majority? They cast their vote in secret, and then they're read aloud until they coalesce around one person.
That's basically right. First of all, to say that of the 252 cardinals there are in the world, there are 135 cardinal electors that can be present at this conclave. So if you are a cardinal under 80 years old, you are eligible to vote. So they will be the ones that will be locked in. That's what
I read something about 120 out of the 135. What is that?
Well, those would be the cardinals under 80 who are eligible to vote.
Okay.
And so it's really kind of important to note that Francis has appointed over 100 of them.
Oh.
So that would be more than the 2/3 majority needed to elect any pope. So it would be the Francis appointed cardinals who will probably carry the day.
Yeah, and I think probably in hopes of continuing his beliefs in the way the Catholic Church should be run. Just real quick question, though. There are a lot of names floating around. Well, maybe I should say a few names that are already floating around on who will follow the Pope as the new Pope. He even had one who he had selected to follow him. Any names that have been floating around that you have heard of who could be our next Pope?
Sure, and maybe before names, we can just say that qualifications that cardinals are going to be looking for include a mastery of some languages, the ability to speak Italian. He is Bishop of Rome,
right,
and it is the language of the Vatican. Ability in English, because so much of the diplomatic work will take place in that language, and ability in Spanish, because the majority of Catholics worldwide speak Spanish. But I'd say in addition, you're probably looking at someone who does share the same outlook that Francis did.
Understood.
Having said all that, I divide candidates into a few categories. I mean, there's the classic Italian cardinals who always seem to be favorites going in, and certainly the Vatican's Secretary of State, Cardinal Parolin, who was close to Francis and was a diplomat in Latin America for many years, is a strong candidate. There are those other Italians who have kind of a twist. So the name of Cardinal PIX11 has been mentioned. He's an Italian, a Franciscan, a religious order like Pope Francis was of the Jesuits. But he's been Patriarch of Jerusalem for many years. And so given the conflicts in the region, you think back to John Paul II being elected during the Cold War. So that's an interesting candidate.
I got to leave it there, Professor, only because we're out of time. We're up against the clock. I know you got a list of names there.
We could talk to you forever, actually.
We'll see what comes out on top. We got plenty of runway here before the conclave begins, but thank you for being here as always, okay?
Oh, honored to be here. Thank you.